Welcome to Max Life, Man, the channel where science meets your inner world. I'm Dr. Sterling Thorne, and today we're diving into the battlefield that no man can escape, his own mind. Gentlemen, let's start with a harsh truth. Anxiety isn't weakness. Overthinking isn't random. Lack of self-confidence, it's not your fault. Neuroscience makes it clear. Your brain runs on internal narratives. These stories, often buried deep from childhood or hidden by defense mechanisms, shape your sense of self. And unless you learn how to rewrite them, they control your happiness, your relationships, your future. Think back. How many times have you talked yourself out of an opportunity? How many times have you stayed silent because a voice inside whispered, "You're not good enough"? That voice isn't reality, it's programming. A script written years ago by fear, failure, or someone else's judgment. And yet most men let that script run their entire life. But here's the good news. Your brain is plastic. Neuroplasticity means you're not locked into the old story. You can rewire the circuits of self-doubt into circuits of self-confidence. Dr. Andrew Huberman from Stanford, Dr. Paul Conti from Harvard Medical School, and countless neuroscientists are proving this in labs and clinics every single day. Mental health is not just about coping, it's about rewriting. Dr. Conti calls it the sense of self. Huberman calls it rewiring through deliberate friction. I call it this, the most important battle a man will ever fight. Because if you conquer the stories inside your head, there's no force outside that can stop you. Gentlemen, understand this. Anxiety is not your enemy. It's your brain trying to protect you. Overthinking is not laziness. It's your circuits stuck in a loop. Low confidence doesn't mean weakness. It means you've been running a program that no longer serves you. And when you know the science, you can step out of the loop, rewrite the program, and reclaim control. But before we go deeper, I want to challenge you with something simple yet powerful. Hit that like button right now. Not for me, for you. Because when you do, you're making a declaration. I'm ready to face my internal narratives. I'm ready to grow stronger. I'm ready to live with clarity. And here's what I'll say to every man who does it. May you be blessed with calm in the storm, with the confidence to face your challenges, and with the kind of emotional well-being that turns life from survival into fulfillment. Call it psychology, call it neuroscience, call it the universe. It doesn't matter. What matters is this. Even a small action like clicking that button begins to shift the story. Try it and you'll see how quickly momentum follows. Gentlemen, this episode is not about abstract theory. We're going to break down the neuroscience of self-concept, the psychology of anxiety and overthinking, the tools to build lasting self-confidence, and the strategies to turn defense mechanisms into strength. By the end, you'll see that happiness isn't a distant dream, it's a system. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you can train. And the man you've been searching for, he's not out there. He's inside, waiting for you to rewrite the script. So settle in. This isn't just a podcast, it's a roadmap, a guide to becoming a man at peace with himself and a man unstoppable in the world. The science of internal narratives. Gentlemen, let's break it down. Neuroscience tells us something profound. Your sense of self, the way you see and talk to yourself, is not some mystical fog. It's circuitry, real, physical networks inside your brain. Dr. Andrew Huberman from Stanford calls this neuroplasticity at work. The stories you tell yourself, "I'm not good enough. I'll fail anyway. Why even try?" aren't just words. They're patterns of neurons firing together, wiring together. Every time you repeat the story, you strengthen the circuit. It's like hitting save on a corrupted file again and again. Dr. Paul Conti, psychiatrist from Harvard and Stanford, goes even deeper. He explains that your sense of self forms early, shaped by childhood experiences, parents, teachers, even the traumas you never processed. This self-concept is like the lens through which you view reality. If the lens is cracked, if you internalized shame, neglect, or constant criticism, then no matter what the outside world offers, you still see yourself as broken. And here's the kicker. Anxiety, overthinking, and low self-confidence aren't random glitches. They are defense mechanisms. Your brain is trying to protect you from rejection, from failure, from repeating old pain. But in doing so, it locks you in a loop. Anxiety screams, don't risk it. Overthinking says, let's analyze this forever so we don't make a mistake. Low confidence whispers, stay small, it's safer there. Huberman explains this loop as a dopamine misalignment. When your self-image is negative, your brain doesn't release dopamine for forward action. It releases cortisol and adrenaline for avoidance. You literally feel paralyzed, not because you're weak, but because your chemistry is rewarding safety over growth. Conti puts it like this: if your sense of self is warped, even success feels hollow. You can achieve, but you won't feel fulfilled, because deep down you don't believe you deserve it. That's why so many high performers still feel empty. Gentlemen, the science is clear. Your internal narratives shape your emotional well-being, your career, your relationships, even your physical health. But the hope, the revolutionary hope, is this: these narratives are not permanent, they are not destiny, they are circuits, and circuits can be rewired. Every time you expose yourself to friction, speaking up when your instinct says stay silent, starting the project when fear says don't, you fire a new pattern, you lay down new connections. Over time, those new circuits become stronger than the old ones. That's neuroplasticity. That's how you rewrite your sense of self. So let me ask you, what story have you been replaying? Which loop has been stealing your energy, anxiety, overthinking, or self-doubt? Drop it in the comments. Not as weakness, but as a declaration. I see the script, and I'm ready to rewrite it. Gentlemen, understanding the science is step 1. Step 2 is action, and in the next part, we'll dive into how to take that knowledge and actually shift your identity from a man trapped in old circuits to a man who authors his own story. Rewriting the self, from loops to liberation. Gentlemen, knowledge is power, but only if you use it. Neuroscience can show you why you feel trapped, but liberation comes from practice. The good news: your brain is wired to change. The challenge: it only changes through friction, through pushing against the old story until a new one takes root. Here's the framework: 4 steps to rewriting your sense of self. 1. Reframing, catch the narrative, rewrite the script. Dr. Paul Conti teaches that the first step is awareness. You must hear the voice before you can change it. The next time anxiety whispers, you're not ready, stop. Label it, this is my old circuit. Then reframe, I may not be perfect, but I am capable enough to try. Huberman's lab shows that even this tiny cognitive reframe activates new neural pathways. 1 thought at a time, you weaken the old loop. 2. Friction training action beats rumination. Gentlemen, let's be clear. You can't think your way out of overthinking. You act your way out. Huberman calls this leveraging friction. Every time you take action when your brain screams avoid, you fire dopamine for courage instead of cortisol for fear. That's the rewiring in real time. Practical example: if you normally stay quiet in meetings, force yourself to say 1 sentence. If you usually procrastinate, set a timer for 5 minutes and just start. The action doesn't have to be huge, it just has to be opposite to the loop. 3. Journaling from fog to clarity. Your brain is a terrible storage unit. Leave your thoughts in there and they multiply like weeds. Journaling is the act of pulling those weeds into the open. Huberman highlights this as a form of cognitive offloading. When you put words on paper, the amygdala calms down, the prefrontal cortex steps in, and your thoughts become manageable. Try this. Each night, write down 1 negative loop you noticed, then 1 way you reframed it. Over weeks, you'll see your narrative literally transform on paper. 4. Mentorship, borrowing better circuits. Conti insists that no man rewrites his story alone. Mentors, role models, even close friends act as external mirrors. They hold you accountable when the old story drags you back. Neuroscience confirms this. Mirror neurons fire when we watch others model the behavior we want. Surround yourself with men who live the story you want to tell, and your brain will start coding that script into your own life. Gentlemen, here's the brutal truth. Your old circuits won't go quietly. Anxiety, self-doubt, overthinking, they've been protecting you for years, but protection is not the same as growth. You don't need to erase those loops, you need to outgrow them. And with reframing, friction, journaling, and mentorship, you can. So here's my challenge. Pick one tool today. Write a reframe, take one friction action, journal one page, text one mentor, then comment below, I'm rewriting my story. Because men who declare it, who own it, don't just change their thoughts, they change their lives. Love, anxiety, and the self in relationships. Gentlemen, let's be brutally honest. The way you see yourself is the way you show up in love. If your internal narrative says, I'm not worthy, then every time someone shows you affection, you'll secretly wait for it to vanish. If your story whispers, I'll be abandoned, then anxiety will creep into every text not answered, every look not explained. Dr. Paul Conti explains this perfectly. Your sense of self doesn't just shape your career or confidence. It's the foundation of intimacy. If your self-concept is cracked, you don't just struggle alone. You bring that fracture into your relationships. Think about it. A man who believes he's not enough will overgive, overplease, and still feel unseen. A man trapped in overthinking will analyze every word his partner says, draining connection with endless doubt. A man with low confidence will either cling too tightly or hold back completely, afraid that being known is the same as being rejected. And here's the kicker, your partner feels it. Humans are wired with mirror neurons. We literally sense each other's states. Huberman reminds us that anxiety and calm, fear and safety are contagious. If your inner world is chaos, it bleeds into your relationships. But there's hope. When you start to rewrite your story, when you face the loops of self-doubt, you don't just heal yourself. You heal the space between you and others. A man who reframes anxiety into awareness becomes a man who listens with presence. A man who trains friction against overthinking becomes a man who can step into vulnerability without freezing. A man who rebuilds confidence stops needing to be perfect and starts being real. Gentlemen, love requires risk. Neuroscience makes it clear. Intimacy thrives on openness, and openness is impossible without self-acceptance. If you don't accept yourself, you'll either armor up or fall apart. But when you anchor a healthier sense of self, you can finally stand steady. You can love without losing yourself, and this is where vulnerability becomes strength. Conti calls it the courage to be known. Huberman calls it exposing yourself to controlled friction. I call it the single most masculine act a man can take, showing up with honesty even when the old circuits scream to hide. So here's my challenge to you. Identify one loop that poisons your relationships. Maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's silence, maybe it's overgiving. Write it down. Then comment below, I see it, and I'm ready to change it. That's how transformation begins, not by blaming her, not by blaming fate, but by owning your inner world. Gentlemen, never forget this. How you see yourself is how you teach others to see you. Rewrite your story and you don't just change your mind, you change the way you love, the way you connect, the way you're remembered. Mentorship and mirrors, why you need others to grow. Gentlemen, here's a truth that stings. You can't see yourself clearly. None of us can. No matter how self-aware you think you are, your brain is built with blind spots. That's why Dr. Paul Conti calls mentors and role models mirrors of the self. They reflect back to us what we cannot or will not see on our own. Think about it. Overthinking, anxiety, self-doubt, they live in your internal narrative. And when you're stuck inside that loop, you don't even realize it's a loop. You think it's reality. A mentor, a role model, a brother you trust, they interrupt that illusion. They hold up a mirror and say, this isn't you, this is just your old program talking. Dr. Andrew Huberman explains this with neuroscience. Humans are wired for observational learning. Our mirror neurons fire when we watch others take action. That's why surrounding yourself with men who act with confidence, integrity, and purpose rewires your own brain. You literally begin to embody what you see. But here's the problem. Too many men isolate. We armor up, pretend we don't need guidance, tell ourselves, I've got this. And what happens? The loops get louder, anxiety grows, relationships crack. We mistake stubbornness for strength. Gentlemen, strength is not isolation. Strength is knowing when to borrow wisdom. Look at every conqueror, every innovator, every great man in history. They had teachers. They had mirrors. Alexander had Aristotle. Marcus Aurelius had Rusticus. Even modern giants like Huberman and Conti credit their mentors for shaping their path. And it's not just about learning strategies. It's about absorbing belief. A true mentor doesn't just teach you what to do, they lend you their conviction until you can build your own. When you doubt yourself, their voice becomes the counter-narrative. When you slip into old circuits, their example pulls you back toward growth. Gentlemen, let me be clear. No man rewires alone. You need people who see the version of you that you can't yet see. You need men who demand your best when you'd settle for average. You need mirrors that reflect not just who you are, but who you're becoming. So here's my challenge. Seek one mirror this week. It could be a mentor, a role model, even a book or a podcast from someone you respect. Expose yourself to a stronger narrative than your own. Then comment below, "I found my mirror." Because when you declare it, you anchor it. Gentlemen, the man you are is shaped by the men you learn from. Choose carefully, because your mirrors today become your mindset tomorrow. Closing emotion plus call to action. Gentlemen, let's pause and reflect. We've traveled from the battlefield of the mind through the science of internal narratives into the rewiring of self, the courage to love with vulnerability, and the power of mentorship. If there's one lesson to carry forward, it's this. You are not trapped in the story you were handed. You are the author. Neuroscience makes it clear your brain is plastic. Every loop of anxiety, every whisper of doubt, every wall of overthinking can be challenged and changed. And psychology reminds us, the way you see yourself dictates the way you live, love, and lead. Dr. Andrew Huberman and Dr. Paul Conti agree on this point. Men who choose to rewrite their narratives don't just improve their mental health, they transform their entire lives. They build confidence that is felt by others. They cultivate calm where there was once chaos. They discover fulfillment not by waiting for it, but by creating it through action. Gentlemen, here's the truth. Life won't wait. Your old circuits won't vanish on their own. But the moment you decide, today, not tomorrow, to reframe, to face friction, to write it down, to seek your mirrors, you begin to change. And once that shift starts, momentum carries you further than you imagine. So here's my final ask. Hit that like button. Not for me, for yourself. Because when you do, you declare, I choose growth. I choose clarity. I choose to lead my life, not just live it. And to every man who takes that small but powerful action, I'll say this blessing. May your anxiety turn into awareness, may your overthinking transform into wisdom, and may your self-doubt dissolve into a strength you never knew you had. Comment below what part of this journey hit you hardest, because when men share, men grow. Subscribe so you never miss the next step in rewiring your mind with science and wisdom. And share this with a brother who needs it, because the man you help today may be the man who stands beside you tomorrow. Gentlemen, remember this. Your mind is not your prison. It's your lab. And the man who dares to rewrite his story becomes the man who rewrites his destiny.